This
like you
conference
are
will
with
now be
recording.
recorded.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I
Okay,
said, I can edit stuff out, but yeah, you're talking up at the top, your screen's here, that's what I see.
okay. All right, Andrew, I'm gonna leave it up to you for the editing, as you know, because I'm by no means a professional at this. So a little different when you do it in front of a group versus doing it on camera. But once again, this is Cecil Ayllon with Setco Pier Minuteman Anchors. Now, today I'm going to focus more on what I do for the Setco Pier side of the industry versus the Minuteman Anchor side. And once again, I'd like to thank the Ohio Manufacturing Association for allowing me the time to talk about one of my favorite subjects when I have a discussion at an installation seminar. That shows you how exciting my life is if this is what I dwell on. But and this is something that comes up from time to time from either the code official or inspection side or questions from the installers. And this comes up in areas such as in Ohio, where you have a frost depth and you have to protect the foundation. And we're strictly going to talk about the foundation regarding the footers, the type of footers, and what are we allowed to do and what is specified by the HUD guidelines as the options to protect that foundation from the effects of frost or frost heave, which is something you have to be concerned about in Ohio, because I don't have it on the top of my head, but for instance, let's talk about Columbus. I know, Andrew, I don't know what the frost depth is in Columbus, but I would assume it's probably somewhere around 24 inches deep. Of course, all that, the local code official will know that, or your inspector will know what that is. And you as the installer should know what that is before you go out to site, especially if you're pouring concrete. Now, what I'd like to talk about is this picture. Of course, you're seeing this on my PowerPoint here. And these are going to be the options that HUD allows or is outlined in the HUD installation standards, HUD installation standards 3285. These are the national standards. This is the minimum requirement of what HUD requires as far as how to install a home properly. And there is a section in the 3285 that addresses strictly the way HUD accepts or allows for the placement of your footers, which is the base of your foundation, in areas that are prone to frost and frost heave that could affect the actual foundation of the home. Now I'm going to kind of click over to a different slide. And we'll go back to this one because this is one of the options that is discussed in HUD. Now, this is your HUD 3285 installation standards. These have been out, as you see, they were adopted, and I think you see the dates down, October 2007, and then effective October of 2008. These are the national standards. These are the minimum requirements that is set on writing and in code for the proper installation of a home. Any manufacturer that puts out an installation manual, which is required, has to meet the minimums that are outlined in this final ruling code reference book. But you can actually get this online, download the whole 3285. This is one that I keep with me, the same booklet copy. And like I said, I just want to focus on the actual section of this code that addresses the proper protection of your foundation or your footers in frost-prone areas, such as Ohio and, of course, further north. Now, HUD allows for 3 methods to protect your foundation or your footers from the effects of frost. Now, the first one is your conventional footings. This is something that every contractor is aware of, every code official, every inspector is aware of, and it's the one that's been used probably longer than anything else. And that's if you're pouring concrete footers, if you're pouring concrete runners, for example, or footers, is pouring the concrete to the frost depth as determined by that local jurisdiction. Now, All the home manufacturers have frost depth maps in their installation manuals that you can go by. Some states default to those manuals versus the local jurisdiction. I know Kentucky is one that defaults over to the frost depths in the manual versus the local jurisdiction. And that, of course, I said that depends on where you're at. But the most common way, and like I said, every contractor is aware of this, every code official, inspector, and that is to pour your footers or your runners, either one, if you're doing concrete, that gets to the frost depth. So basically what you're doing is you're pouring that concrete deep enough where if there is frost or freezing penetration to the soil underneath the home, to your pad, that it will not cause any lift to that foundation, thus moving that home on its foundation. You're going below where it typically will freeze. So that is the most common option. That's the number one option outlined in that section of the HUD code. The second option, it tends to get quite a bit more expensive, especially today with the increased cost of several different construction materials, and that is the monolithic slab system. Now, this is a full concrete slab that's poured that protects that foundation against the potential of frost heave. And like I said, you're using a lot more concrete because you're pouring a solid slab here, and it tends to get quite expensive versus going the footer route or the runner route. Now I'm going to switch over to another screen to give you the third option. And this is an option that I have seen utilized in Ohio. And I'm going to just kind of give it the general requirements here, and then kind of show you some examples of what we've done on the Setco side as our design that meets this requirement. One of the options, and this is something that is not, as I guess a lot of the folks, code officials, installers are not aware of, and this HUD allows for the use of insulated foundations, which pertains to basically you building a foundation wall or a skirting barrier on the home that is insulated to the requirements and will allow, in other words, it's insulated to the requirements per the engineering that keeps the temperature underneath the home and the temperature of that ground that your foundation is setting on from ever freezing. If it never freezes, there is no potential for frost heave or any movement of that foundation due to the effects of freezing or the effects of frost. This is called an insulated foundation. This allows you to place your footers on grade or near grade versus going below the frost depth. Because like I said, you're taking away the temperature aspect of the ability to create a frost heave effect to the foundation. HUD allows for this construction. Let me go a little bit deeper into this. This is kind of gives you an example of the difference between a frost protected shallow foundation depth, this is with concrete, versus a conventional footer that is below, that has to go to the frost depth. You're using a lot less construction material on site on that application. Excuse me. Let me go back to that first slide that we talked about. This is actually a rendition of a frost protected shallow foundation that actually came from HUD itself. As you can see, this is an actual drawing that reflects a manufactured house, and it shows you the application in the simplest of terms. What a frost protected shallow foundation does is, as you can see by this picture, it creates a insulated envelope around that crawl space and ground under the home that captures the heat during the winter. It captures the geothermal heat that's always present in the ground, and it captures the percentage of heat loss that's coming from inside the box of the home as that heat or heat source is running. It keeps all of that heat in that crawl space, basically not allowing the ground to freeze. If the ground doesn't freeze, there is no such thing as frost heave. Now, of course, we have to have an engineering design for this. And what it does allow you to do, it does allow you to place your footers, whether you're using precast concrete, whether you're using ABS pads, it does allow you to place those above the frost depth and pretty much place them near grade. This is an approved method. This is a method that is recognized by HUD. Now, to give you an example of just what we've done at Sedco, and there's other companies out there that offer insulated skirting that they have their own engineering that meets this requirement. And of course, I have had the opportunity to visit some of the sites at Enchanted Acres just outside of Columbus, where we used to have the in-person training. And I noticed that a lot of those homes used a form of frost protected foundation where the houses are placed on grade. Usually, I know y'all use a lot of crush and run to build the pads, which is a non-frost acceptable soil to start with, packs real good, and actually it gives a high load capacity, bearing capacity on the surface, where your foundations are pretty much placed on surface and insulated skirting barriers placed around that home. Now, I'm going to show you just kind of what we do at, now, one thing I wanted to kind of discuss is if you go back to the HUD standards, I think I may have cut that off here. Anyway, on that section 3 in that section of code that allows for insulated foundations, HUD does reference this guideline. It's called the ASCE standard. This is actually the ASCE standard 3201, and it is of course, published by the American Society of Civil Engineers. And it is the guidebook on the proper way to construct a frost protected shallow foundation. You can actually download this guideline or this standard off the internet. Now, it gets pretty technical, and I'm going to kind of show you something that we utilize that is a lot simpler to understand. And this is this revised builder's guide to frost protected shallow foundations. This was actually a guide that simplifies the requirements for the proper construction of a frost protected shallow foundation that was published by all these organizations that you see listed on the bottom, HUD being one of them. This, of course, and actually you can actually download this off the internet too at no cost. I keep a copy of this with me. It is a good guidebook. All of our engineering that we offer for a frost protected shallow foundation construction method is based on this guidebook, which is based on that ASCE standard that is recognized by HUD and also recognized by the International Residential Code too. Just some factors, we can get into a long discussion on this, on what the whole parameters of a proper frost protected foundation is based on, such as the freezing day index, R values of the floor, and the amount of the exposed wall above grade. All those affects the ability to capture the heat and keep that crawl space and dirt under that home from freezing. This just is some of the technical information that is in the guidebook that I tend to go over. Now, we offer some very good supporting engineering documents for a frost protected shallow foundation. This is kind of one that you're looking at here that engineers has prepared for us. Not only do we have the engineering on this, but we also have the approval letters from different manufacturers. This is some ways falls in that alternate construction category. So what we have done at Sedco is we have submitted all of our engineering on a frost protected shallow foundation option to the manufacturer, and the manufacturers have reviewed and issued approval letters. So this is just one. This is an old one actually from the state of Illinois. But it kind of shows, we took the time to get the manufacturers to approve it, so we had all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted on this, and that's something we can provide to anybody that needs it. Just the following slides are some pictures of a frost protected foundation being constructed. Now, these are not in Ohio. These are actually taken in Wisconsin, where the frost depth is quite a bit deeper than what you see in Ohio. And some of the requirements are a little bit more to it than what you'd see in Ohio, because you're dealing with deeper frost depths in order to protect the foundation properly. But you see the skirting going up. You see a contractor placing insulated panels on the ground that will be covered with dirt. If I'm not mistaken though, Ohio does not require those panels to be placed outside the wall for that extra barrier of protection, because your frost depths are not deep enough, or your freezing day indexes aren't high enough for that requirement, as it is in Wisconsin. Here you see another picture of the insulation panels being placed on the ground. Of course, you see it was a cold winter day with the snow on the ground there in Wisconsin. This is a finished foundation. Of course, you don't see everything that was involved in the construction from the outside on a single wide there. No, I'm sorry, that's a double wide there in Wisconsin. These are some, you see a picture of the insulated panels that actually get placed behind the skirting panels to provide that R factor or insulation factor to the crawl space. Here you see them putting those insulation pieces up. You see, in fact, you can actually see a good picture of the pier there. And you see an ABS type pad, footing pad placed as your support footer, and that support footer is sitting right on grade. This is allowed with this construction method, so there is no pouring concrete or having to place the footer below a frost depth, because basically what you're doing with this is you're eliminating that frost line underneath the home. Just another example of the insulation placed in behind the skirting panel. That's just one of the methods of securing. And just kind of flipping through here, you see the construction, of course, the final deal. Of course, I should have put my contact information up there. I've discussed this method before in in-person classes, and hopefully one day we'll get back to the in-person classes. I understand their confusion about this comes up from time to time, especially on the code and inspection side of things. So, I mean, this is an allowed method. You can place footers on grade and frost-prone areas if you construct the foundation correctly per the options outlined in the HUD 3285 guidelines. And one of those methods that is allowed is the construction of an insulated foundation that does allow you to place those footers on grade versus going below the frost depth. Andrew, of course, as always, it's always a pleasure to be able to do this. I know me and you were going back and forth for a few days trying to get this done. I'm always available if anybody has any questions regarding what they need to look at this. We have a very good standard generic package that we initially send out. And and I have several approval letters from different manufacturers, from Clayton and several other of the big ones, that I will be more than glad to send out to anybody that has any questions on this. I am always available to have a discussion on this, whether it's from the code official side or the installer side, regarding this method and how this is allowed. And I know, look, and this is something y'all have recognized in Ohio for quite a while, Andrea. As you know, I mentioned Enchanted Acres earlier in the presentation. I know there's several of those houses in that nice community that are sitting on grade with an insulated wall around them. And if, you know, I've never had anybody call me that from any side that there's ever been an issue with any movement of those foundations during the winter or any penetration of frost that would affect the foundation. So it's a method that is proven, it works. We didn't just kind of grab this from thin air. It is recognized, like I said, by the HUD installation standards, and it's also recognized by the International Residential Code. So I'm always available to have a discussion or get any information to anybody on this construction method. Andrew knows how to reach me. And like I said, I should have put my contact info up there, but anything I can do to help the good folks in Ohio, I'll be more than glad to, and always enjoy having this opportunity. Andrew, is there anything else? Or?
No, I can certainly add your contact information as a slide here at the end, so they have that. They can contact me. And
okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I didn't think about that until afterwards. You know, we've discussed this in the in-person classes before. It's probably been a while, but you know, it's just something, because I know you spoke to me some weeks back. I think questions about this came up from, I would suppose, from the inspection side on from the Department of Commerce, and
right.
They may not be aware of this option, but like I said, it is a method that is recognized by the HUD 3285 standard. Now, of course, I don't dig down into the Ohio code standards, And if we have to have that discussion, I'll be more than glad to start seeing. But everything should be based on the 3285 as far as installation standards.
Right, right. And Ohio mirrors the HUD standard, and I think there was a little bit of confusion
Right.
or some inspector that maybe misspoke. That's why we certainly keep an eye on these things, because we want to keep our products cost effective and make sure that we give everyone all the options. So I appreciate your clarification and your willingness to share your certificates in case, or your plans from all those manufacturers in case people ever need
Yes.
that paper form for their inspector. That we certainly something we can provide.
Okay, well, like I said, I can provide what we have that we offer the industry, but like I mentioned, we're not the only ones that have this design. As you know, there's several companies that make an insulated skirting panel that I believe have their own engineering that has been run through the same process. Always make sure you have if you're going to look at this, whatever product you choose, make sure that whoever is providing you that product can provide you that manufacturer's approval letter, because that takes a lot of headache away from the equation, especially dealing with the inspection side of it.
Right. Well, that's good to know.
And look, and the benefit to this, the benefit to this option is you're basically removing the cost of all the concrete that you typically use on site to protect that foundation from frost. And as you know, in this world and today, everything involved that you purchase is going up in price. And, if you can remove the cost of concrete from the equation and just stick to a properly prepared dirt pad with proper positive draining and be able to place your foundation on grade, there should be a good cost savings in there for the installer and for the homeowner.
Right. Just one other note about the draining, because I know our legal counsel has mentioned this, is to take pictures after you install a home, because sometimes the homeowner comes in later and adds flower beds and stuff, and there are headaches, and they say you didn't set it right. But the drainage and how important the drainage is.
True. That's true. Yeah, I think every state I go to, when we had in-person classes, which we still don't have in most states right now, that is something that every presenter emphasizes, and that is right. One, if the installer has prepared that site and that house goes in, make sure you document what it looked like before the homeowner got in there, like you said, and did some things that could affect that positive drainage after the fact, because a picture is worth, what they say, 1,000 words. So if you have proof of that you're not the one that put the flower beds in that caused the issue, that just protects you as a business person, as an installer.
Right. Well, thanks again, Cecil. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you, and hopefully we maybe this fall we can get together and do an in-person class.
I look forward to that. Kind of miss that. I know I've had a few states that are doing that right now, but very few. But I always enjoy the visit up to Enchanted Acres when that takes place. So.
Yeah, we'll see if they'll have us.
But Andrew, if you need me, call me, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Cecil. You have a good day.
Okay. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.